Oh, hey Dustin. Hey Jesse. Could you answer a little question for me?
All
Sure.
right.
What's the question?
Okay. So it's, so please imagine Julie has just started secondary school. One day she comes home quite angry. We had to sit through 2 hours of boring Christmas rehearsals today. You point out that this is meant to be fun and that, after all, everyone has to do it. It isn't a choice. Julie gets visibly annoyed. But that isn't true. The reason I'm so angry is because the Jones children, who she reminds you are Jehovah's Witnesses, don't have to get involved. You explain this is because their religion excludes them from celebrating Christmas. Julie responds, that seems quite convenient. Perhaps I should start a religion that excludes me from going to school. Well, I, for one, have had enough, and I'm going to see my teacher tomorrow to complain about it. Do you think Julie has a point? Do you think we should make these types of exceptions for religious groups?
My religion forbids me for giving logical answers to questions. Oh,
My
wait,
religion
that's every religion. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just dismiss religion? I'm sorry. I promise not to do that again.
So, in case it wasn't evident, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have a little discussion on multiculturalism, a very safe topic.
No problems here.
No problems here. There's no chance of getting in any trouble.
And
So, but again, like, let me just start off again. Let's just remind everybody, this is a discussion. This is not a lecture. This is not some kind of conclusion we've all drawn. This is a conversation. It's going to go places none of us have planned, or we didn't even know it would go when we started. So, please take that into account when you're listening.
it's going to be a ride. I hope you enjoy it. Also, while we're reminding you of things I also want to remind everybody that I also have religious exceptions. My religion forbids me from wearing pants when I'm broadcasting on the internet.
That seems awfully convenient.
So, if I do have to grab anything, you just might want to look away.
Okay. That's okay. It's okay. We understand. So, in this thought experiment, my biggest problem is that I wouldn't say to Julie, who is my daughter.
I guess.
I wouldn't say to her. After all, everyone has to do it. Is it as a choice? I'd be calling up that school and be going, why are they singing Christmas songs?
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Yeah.
You should all be fired. Oh wait, no, sorry, I shouldn't be that. Like, what are they doing singing Christmas songs? That's kind of weird, right? So
I suppose unless it's like so this is Christmas, the happy Christmas.
That would be the one that I want to sing them the least. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, is this my John Lennon diss now? Oh my god.
Oh my god, you just get off that song. Don't you be dissing that song.
It's not a bad song, but
not a bad
so
song.
many times. I don't know. Like, it's better than Imagine. So
Okay, I'll give you 100%. It's better than Imagine.
it's like 1,000 times better than Imagine.
You see, so this is what we were talking about now, viewers. Is it hasn't been 2 minutes and we're already off into weird territory.
Yeah, no. I think I've actually already stepped on possibly bad. Like this, I know that I'm not. I'm afraid of this conversation because I don't think that I have last time we had a very nice conversation where we ended up in a very nice, very happy conclusion. Like, I don't feel like I have very nice views about this.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I don't feel like I feel like I have very not very nice views about this, and I don't know. I'm hoping that those views get changed.
Well, yeah. Let's just say, I hope what we're gonna do here is, kind of like some of the stuff, like whenever you read when you read the Republic, what people say about like Socrates and his view of democracy. I mean, some things need to be questioned, right? And we need to get down to think about why do some of these things, why are they the way they are, and hopefully this will be an act of trying to come to understand a little bit why we're doing some of the things we're doing, or maybe if some of those things could be modified or changed. Just putting that up as a little prescript here for our conversation too, because I agree. Again, for this by the way, again for this, we read 4 articles in philosophy journals. Let me just go over those really quick. The first one is by Okin. The title is Multiculturalism Bad for Women? What a provocative title. The second one is by Scheffler. It's called Immigration and the Significance of Culture. The next one is by Song. It's called The Subject of Multiculturalism, Culture, Religion, Language, Ethnicity, Nationality, and Race? ? And last it is by Waldron. It's called Superseding Historic Injustice. So those are the 4 journal articles we read, or essays we read for this one. And each one of them is touching on different facets of this thing we're calling multiculturalism. And I guess maybe we should just get started by talking a little bit about that. I mean, like, maybe one of the problems is like, what are we talking about when we say multiculturalism? Maybe we should just kind of throw that on the table real quick. So, I don't know, it's weird, like you look and people have different definitions, or people have looser or tighter definitions. So what do you think about just throwing this on the table? It's a very loose one we can work with and modify. But let's start here. Maybe it's called multiculturalism, is going to be the active promotion of cultural diversity, and that active promotion of cultural diversity is the actual making sure that other cultures within your culture are respected, both politically, legally, and morally. Kind of actually promoting them in all those realms, so they kind of get a level of modicum of equal respect to the dominant culture or the pre-existing culture in that society. What do you think? Do you have any objections to that?
I guess but couldn't you be nicer and say that there's no impositions on them, right? At the very least, like, in a negative sense, that they're not being denied.
They're not being denied. I mean, yeah, so this is where it gets into some messy territory. Some people leave it just at that. In other words, like, it's not actively promoted, but it's not actively denied. So do you want to leave it even further open than that? Like, not the active promotion, but actually...
I have a feeling that that's not what they're talking about, though.
I have a feeling it's the active promotion of these cultures. Right?
Like I said, I feel this. I'm with you on this one, Justin. I think this is what they're talking about.
It is.
Especially, when the second we start talking, one of our essays discussed, like, language programs. There you go.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Assistance to people who speak other languages, and that's obviously an active thing, not just to have them, respected, not inconvenienced, but also to make them level people, lift people who don't speak the dominant language up to the same level as people who do.
That's right. Yeah. And also, like Jesse, that's perfect. I like what you said. Like, the people argue that, like, maybe language. One of the many arguments in one of the other essays was that language is a potential source of discrimination. Because, hey, why aren't you speaking XYZ? Why aren't you speaking English, kind of thing. So, in order to prevent or to raise that up to a proper level of respect, you promote like maybe providing forums in multiple languages, or even like having kids experience other languages in school, or like even back when I was a little kid, like back in elementary school, we had a couple days just learning Spanish. I remember that. It was kind of fun, actually. I really remember. I thought it was kind of fun. We learned to count, and we learned some simple words in Spanish. I mean, this is way before I was forced to take a language, maybe up in like high school or junior high school. But maybe things like this, trying to weed out these potential ways of discriminating or not respecting or looking down on minority cultures within a larger one, I guess. Again, that's what we're dealing with, right? Maybe, kind of.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess then the next issue is, well, what's the problem with that? What's the problem? Now we're going to start getting into some more difficult stuff. So let me just throw this out real quick. It's just a general thing, and then maybe we can expand from there. So I guess liberal ideology in multiculturalism don't always sit happily together. There's a tension between them. And why does that happen? Well, it happens because some groups, some cultures that enter in from outside hold non-liberal views within their culture, and then when they're allowed to enter a liberal society like America or whatever, then they actually maintain those illiberal views. And I mean, this is a chunk of Okin's essay, Is Multiculturalism Bad for Women? I mean, this is the most vivid example, I think, where she brings up all these examples of, well, in Europe or even in the States, where people come in, they bring these traditions, for example, like polygamy. In France, it was given, people just kind of looked the other way when all these people were having polygamous marriages, even though it was illegal. And in the end, actually, well, it wasn't a good situation for the women, right? But they were kind of like, well, it's their culture. Well, that's their culture. But like, these women were suffering. They were resented the fact that, like, here they finally escaped to Europe, and they're just stuck. They're just stuck back in polygamy again, stuck back in the old system that they assumed they had escaped when they left for Europe, a more liberal place. And like, I hear all these French guys are kind of like, well, we got to let them do what they do. That's their culture. That's the way they live. So we're not going to tell them to stop, really. I guess that's a picture she was trying to paint in that essay anyway. So far, so good. You got any objections to that?
I object to the whole situation.
Yes, we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But I do like what it said, like in the main book, in the main text, right? It said, like, basically take any characteristic and imagine a culture that treats that characteristic as evil and doesn't give rights to those who have it. For example, homosexuality. Right? So it's not difficult to imagine that. Take any culture like that, and then like we throw them in, and we say, well, you guys go nuts, go crazy. Welcome to America. Hate on the gays all you want in your group there. That's your group. That's your right. That's your culture. We're not going to stop you, kind of thing. And on top of that, I mean, if you combine that with the previous definition, on top of that, it's got to be respected. It's got to be actively respected as on some kind of equal footing with our culture. I mean, I don't want to be constructing a straw man here, but I mean, you can easily visualize somebody sitting back going kind of like, oh, here you are with your Western imperialism, thinking you know what's best for everybody. You think that these guys, like, you think that they should conform to American Western ways of thinking? Come on, who do you think you're, a god? Like, who are you to say? Who are you to say that this way of our way of life is better? Who are you to say that? Just let them be. Let them be the way they are, and we'll be the way we are.
They made their own choice, right? They
made their choice. That's their culture. Come on. I mean, these people exist, man. They exist in droves.
Yeah. It's restraining, rolling my eyes at every one of those sentences. Maybe it's my time in Japan that has made me so extremely cynical.
I know.
About this. I mean, to the point where I can't even stand it.
I know.
Like, this is the argument. It's our culture. It literally has no meaning for me anymore. It's like saying nonsense to me.
It's love as it says. It's like saying, "This is what we do."
Yeah, this is what we do.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Well, this is what we do. Well, who do you mean we? Well, I mean everyone. Really, everyone? Well, no, not everyone. Well, who then? Well, the people I respect. Who are the people you respect? Well, most of the people in power. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it now.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the start of my rolling of my eyes about culture as a normative value.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention the myriad aspects of cultural relativism that get into this, like this whole sentence. Who are you to say? Right? Who are you to say? Sentences self-refuting at best.
No, from our culture, this this is good, whereas your culture, this is bad, and we just have to respect that from your culture it's good, from my culture it's bad.
Yeah, it's just agree to disagree. So you guys, you go over there and refuse to allow women to have jobs or vote. That's great. You just do your thing because that's your culture.
Right. Although the fact that culture isn't a normative claim on anything means that saying that's your culture means basically, well, that's because that's what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, so you guys go over there and do that because you do that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I
That's
know,
why
right?
you do that. Well, really? Really? Is that an
mean,
answer?
That's why I think I do think I was really happy. Like, and you guys are touching on this already. I was really happy where two essays, but one in particular, really wanted to dissolve this word culture. It wanted to break it down and dissolve it and show that it's misleading and it's destroying our conversation. I mean, because like you said, like Jesse, like you said, Dustin, like you said, the culture isn't the source of the normative authority, right? It's not like these guys who are like, hey, yeah, in our culture we, hit gay people with rocks or whatever, right? Like, they're not saying that they don't believe that has authority, that has weight because that's what everyone else does. Probably they believe it has a weight because that's what God thinks, or they believe that it has weight that's because it's a moral thing to do.
Unless they're incredible snobs, stoning snobs, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just stoning because that's what everyone else does, right?
Yeah.
I mean
If everyone else,
I'm the stoning snob, right? Like, unless this is actually true, which I can't believe it is, they're doing it for a different reason. I mean, they didn't just roll the dice, right?
Yeah.
So, unless there is a stoning snob, who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
somewhere out there, right? It's a sophisticated palette of stoning he's got.
Yeah.
Well, it's a refined art. It's a delicious art, right? I mean, like, other than that, I mean, he's still probably doing it for a reason, right? A normative reason that's not. Well, I mean, it'd be funny to meet the stoning guy that was like, you come up to this guy that stones gays, and you'd be like, well, why are you doing it? And he's like, well, it's dear Officer Krupke, it's because I was born in this place in this time, right? I mean, I obviously wouldn't be stoning gays if I was born in America, right? I mean, where does this guy exist? Like, he's telling you a joke, right? I mean, like, well, I only stone gays because I was born here.
He sounds like a villain in a movie, almost. Like, he sounds like the Joker might speak someday. Like,
yeah, but they're like this incredibly self-aware man. That's like he's almost like a gremlin or something, right? I mean,
yeah.
He's self-destructing his own statements. Like, well, then you don't believe you should stone gays, right? You just believe it because you're here. And if he said, yeah, that's why. I mean, if I was over there, I wouldn't believe it for a second. You'd be like, you are a monster, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you?
That always reminds me. Remember the Marquis de Sade? Remember what the Marquis de Sade said? I think one of his famous quotes was, "Morality is geography."
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be like a guy who seriously believed that, right? Well, I was born here.
Imagine that person. Just imagine him for a second. It's ridiculous, beyond belief.
I saw, Fred and Barney and Sally over there stoning gays, so, I figured I had to do it. Because everyone else was, not being the bandwagon.
That's not to dismiss that there are people that are doing it because everyone else around them is doing it, but that's from a different kind of moral authority. Yeah. Like, the reason isn't that it comes from a in-group, out-group preferences or an argument from authority, right? If they're not thinking about it, okay. But the reason isn't simply, well, I was born in this part of the globe, right? None of them are taking this seriously. It's in-group, out-group authority preferences.
Yeah, and those people who are doing it just because the neighbors do it, they're not the ones who are going to be going to America and stoning gay people.
Yeah. Yeah. I demand we keep on doing it here.
So, like, I don't know, like, but it seems like, I don't know, just as this aside, like, because it's our culture, is becoming a more and more normative claim all the time. But I think that is a call towards in-group, out-group preferences, right? That's a call towards authority and tradition. Those are legitimate moral sources. Well, I say legitimate. Slightly rolling my eyes.
Yeah,
but those
right.
are moral sources that we can talk about and discuss. But
I mean, but really, it really does boil down to when you start defending things like this because it's our culture. I mean, a lot of this stuff boils down to, I mean, if you're really taking that literally, I mean, it just boils down to, well, traditionally you did this, so you got to keep doing it, right? And what is that? What is that? Right.
And
I mean,
it also really speaks, you know, it's quite self-defeating because it speaks very poorly of your culture too. If that's the excuse you have to use.
yeah. Well, we used to do it, so we do it now.
And,
There's no other reason. No.
Can I sound evil now? I know it's gonna happen eventually. Like, if that's the only reason why you're doing it, yeah, if that were to disappear, we're not losing a lot, are we? Are we really?
Oh God, no. I mean, like, if that's the normative force behind it, it's just like it kind of reminded me of like almost like what the existentialists say, or even like Fleming talked about how like the only purpose it serves is to kind of give you a kind of put you at ease, to make you feel that the world is a place that's kind of set in stone. No thinking is necessary. Don't worry about it. Just do what the path that's been paved out for you.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah, right. It's all part of the plan. So people want that. People crave that. People want to escape. People want to escape their freedom. Oh my God. It's true. It's terrifying. Like they don't want to. When you tell them stuff like this and they don't have a reason to back it up, they do get defensive. But I mean, like, okay, but I mean that's what they're searching for. They're searching to be put at ease. They don't want to believe that the world is a malleable place because it's kind of a terrifying thing. Okay, but there are plenty of ways. There are plenty of ways to put you at ease in the world, right? You could change that up to eating Mr. Donuts every day. I don't know. Right?
No, I'd rather stone gaze.
You could just binge Trigun every day. I don't know, right?
Wait, what?
Why does it have to be stoning gaze at that point, right?
I'd much prefer that other one, but at least we'd learn something.
Alternatives have to be like equally crazy. Can't we just have like regular alternatives? You know, and onsen and tekido no sake.
Oh, that sounds great too.
Well, you can learn stuff from Trigun, I'm telling you.
Okay. But not from Mr. Donuts every day.
Well, you can learn how to get fat. So, like, I don't know. These arguments just carry no weight for me. Like, I mean, like, I don't know.
I guess the thing is, like, okay, so, and oh my God, I'm so much on your page on this, but I was sitting, staring at these essays, trying to think, like, it's got to be something. But I mean, I guess like the deal is, right? Isn't this the deal? Like, I hate for the world to become this global Americanization where everything's the same. Can't we preserve any difference? Why does everything have to be the same? It would suck if every place turned out to have like a McDonald's and a Starbucks. Blah 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 blah. It's too boring.
Doesn't every place have McDonald's?
Yeah,
yeah, it's too late already. OCP won. OCP already runs the world.
Yeah.
We're all working for OCP.
Of course, I'm going to say I suspect Dustin is going to say something similar along these lines, but to the person who says this, I don't want all diversity to disappear from the world, all cultural diversity. I think that probably, even if we were to not actively try to preserve certain things, what would be disappearing would be the type of diversity we don't necessarily want.
Yeah.
I mean, already from the world, a vast, diverse array of killing Jews has been just eliminated from the world. Like, how could we stand the loss of this diversity and anti-Semitism? I mean, the various flavors of it that have disappeared.
And
real shame that.
Let's not forget all of the different ways we used to oppress women that we don't.
Oh my God!
For a woman oppressing a snob like myself, I mean, the fine wines that are no longer fermented over 1,000 years of misogyny. I mean, that's a real sweet, bittersweet taste that we've lost.
I mean,
I mourn it.
What if I'm looking at my daughters and I want to think think, okay, to preserve their purity, should I bind their feet? Should I
What?
belts? I mean, used to be so many options, but what do we do now?
What do we do now? It's almost as if like we have to let them live their own lives. It's crazy stuff. I don't know. What a terrible world we live in.
Just oppressive. So oppressive.
Yeah, it's so oppressive. I mean, like, okay, so I know, like, I hate to come so far down on the typical liberal side of this, but I can't help it. I simply can't help it. Maybe it's the experience living in Japan, because I know that these other cultures are not monoliths. I can't even pretend that Japan is a monolith. I know that there are minority opinions within Japan. I know there is oppressed classes in Japan. Like, so the idea that like somehow there is a Japanese one way of doing things makes me chuckle.
Yeah, and then also, so if we were to, if you just based on that, okay, so then, and of course we're going to assume I'm just going to keep using America as our place where we're trying to accommodate these cultures. Because when Japanese people go to America, knowing that Japanese culture is so heterogeneous, as any time a Japanese person would say, this is our culture. So I would have to think, wait, really, this is what all Japanese people do? All Japanese. Oh, you really need your natto? Every single Japanese person in Japan eats natto? Which, I mean, I got nothing against natto, so long as I'm not the one eating it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, like all the Japanese do when they talk about the Japanese is they just talk about their ideal Japanese person, right? Like, this is what the Japanese should be. Right?
Yeah,
this is what I think the Japanese should be, right? I mean,
statistical averages too, I guess. I mean, if I was being generous,
we would be lucky if they were doing statistical averages.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even bother to check that much, really. But.
I mean, there ain't no data checking going on. Come on, give me a break. Like if they were all checking the data, we'd be going to the convenience store like 2 times every week and having 5.8 onigiris every week. I mean. Yeah, and we'd all have an average of 1 hour on the train to work. I mean, this is the real statistical averages in Japan, right? All right, okay, we could construct the Japanese out of that, which is that's a little bit more interesting than whatever. It's just kind
That'd
of
be hilarious.
ridiculous.
Like, all Japanese have 1.9 children.
Well, again, they'd be lucky if they had that.
Yeah, right. Who said maybe it's lower, 1.4? I can't remember, but.
Yeah. So then, if every Japanese person has 1.4 children? What happened to the second one?
That's
kind of a horrifying image.
Still in Juku. Half in Juku, half out. The cram school, they're half there, half out. So, I mean, like, it's just ridiculous. And I love this, like, I mean, like, I don't know if it's too soon to bring this up, but I love this one of these essays that we weren't assigned.
Oh, one of the replies to Okin's essay.
Yeah,
oh,
and then one of the replies was, whose culture? That's the second essay in here. And it's hilarious because it's something that I immediately thought of, and I was so glad this woman did it. That, like, she's like, yeah, so she's on Okin's side, and she's just like, look, I mean, these people that are pretending to protect minority cultures against women's rights, it's kind of like, well, it's funny. It's just kind of a funny happenstance that we're very interested in protecting minority cultures, or at least there's a certain class of people that are interested in protecting minority cultures from a dominant culture. But I love this example. So it says, how far would an Algerian immigrant get, I wonder, if he refused to pay the interest on his visa bill on the grounds that Islam forbids an interest on borrowed money? Or a Russian who argued that the cradle-to-grave Social Security provided by the former Soviet Union was part of his cultural tradition and should be extended to him in Brooklyn as well. Everyone understands that money is much too important to be handed out in this whimsical fashion. Women and children are another story. Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, money is obviously far more important. I mean, we have to take that stuff seriously. We can't have people cheating on money. Now, taking away rights and advantages from women, I mean, well, that's negotiable, my friends. It's all negotiable. Anything for the right price.
Wow. Yeah, but Wow. Okay. Yeah, I should have read that one. I was off in Crazy Land. I was reading Wes's way in the back. I should have looked at that one. It's a great point. Well, I mean, it's money. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no subjective take on money. I mean, that's the really important. And at the end of the day, I mean, fiddle around with human rights all you want. Money. I mean, come on.
So, like, you know, the closest thing I got to, like, okay, so in the bunch of replies to Okin, Martha Nussbaum replies, and I like Martha Nussbaum a lot. I've mentioned this before. I thought her reply was kind of interesting, mind you. I don't know if I agree with all of it, but I mean, interesting at the very least.
The Sparks Note version of it.
So, like, she starts off saying, like, well, Okin takes religion too simply, blah, 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 blah. But the interesting part of the essay for me was she says, like, look, so what's really happening here are there two conceptions of liberalism. She says, Okin, you are what she calls, like, a comprehensive liberal in the sense that you believe these liberal policies should be comprehensively distributed to all people. They all deserve these rights of, you know, what, you know, not being abused. Anyway,
crazy stuff.
It's crazy stuff. How dare you, Okin? But Martha Nussbaum says, well, look, what's going on here is there's another side to this, and this is what she calls the political liberal, where she says what the political liberal aims for, and what she believes is the freer society. What she believes is the better option is the political liberal, where she says, like, what the political liberal does is tell all these groups, say, like, look, do whatever you want in your group. That's fine. The only thing you have to do is respect diversity and equality as a political stance. Not within your group, not as a metaphysical stance, but as a political stance. So in other words, you have to respect these to the extent that they allow your group to not interfere with other groups.
Well, that's what I'd expect from a Kantian Jew.
I know, my God. It was weird in her essay, by the way. Yeah, in case you're wondering where that came from. Like, in the essay, she's like, I'm a Kantian Jew. And I was like, it was weird. The wording in that essay was really weird, even from Martha Nussbaum.
Yeah.
I was like, where is this
Kantian Jew?
And me as a Kantian Jew, I wasn't, I don't know. That wording made me...
Well, it's just the Kantianism of that idea just screams at you. Like, well, if you universalize the principle of your existence, then you couldn't possibly object to the political, taking the political right seriously, right? I mean, of course, we're all Kantians here, right? Obviously, the world is made up of Kantians, right? Right?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so I was like, okay, that's an interesting shot, because, like, what she says, like, look, the political liberal is better than the comprehensive liberal because the political liberal allows for greater amount of freedom. And she actually says this sentence in the essay where she says, like, look, the political liberal allows for people to choose to throw away their freedom, basically. That's why the political liberal has the advantage over your comprehensive liberal. The comprehensive liberal kind of forces you to live in this, I guess, free, forces you to live free.
You bastard!
Oh, damn you! I can't believe it. But whereas the political liberal says, well, you know, there are many conceptions of the good. There are many reasonable differences in conception of the good. So you can have your conception of the good in which people are not free, and that's fine. Go live there. You can choose to live there. That's fine.
Well, I think there's at least from what you've told me so far, there seems to be a very obvious oversight in this, and I want to know if she has an answer to it. But what about the people who are born into the group that says that people within their group are not free?
She never addresses that, unfortunately.
Okay. So,
unless I need to reread that, because that's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, Martha, some people didn't choose to live there. I know that's the one that kind of bit me. Like I was kind of like, oh, dude, like, okay, so I get it. Like I get it. Let's imagine there was some free society where everyone is educated the same, and like at 20 years old, some woman said, you know what? Screw it. Screw freedom. I hate freedom. I'm gonna go live in a place where women are told what to do. Yeah, women are less than men. Yeah, guys go to work, women stay at home, take care of the kids. Boom. I'm for that. Oh yeah, fine.
Yeah,
Fine.
be my guest.
Be my guest. Go ahead. That's fine for me. She chose that. Right? She's like she's 20. She's been educated. She's been given every bit of freedom we can give her to come to her best conception of the good, and that's the one she arrived at. Fine, go crazy.
Yes.
But that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
What? That's not how it works. Are you sure?
But don't you realize that all of these misogynist societies, all these patriarchies, they raise their girls with mass amount of freedom. They them complete education, and then when they're 20, they say, okay, do you want to serve your husband and as a variable slave, or do you want to be a free and empowered woman who has all sorts of social advancement opportunities?
Take your choice.
Yeah, I mean, this is how patriarchies work, right?
Yes, it's
obviously. I mean, isn't that how we were all educated? Oh no. Oh, I don't know.
Wait a second.
I mean, like it like a lot of interesting questions, they've already been answered by Schopenhauer. So like it's kind of like when Martha Nussbaum's like, well, I mean, so imagine like this world, and this is the real world. This is the world we live in, actually. But imagine what she's saying to these cultures. She's saying to them, well, okay, you can take your culture seriously, as long as you don't take it too seriously. I mean, like, okay, believe what you want to believe, but, that actually can't be enacted in politics, right? I mean, the world that matters, right? Yeah. So, go think what you want in your head, you little Stoics, right? Have your fantasy time in your head, but, hey, when it comes to the real world, you can't do a damn thing. And you expect these people to believe that? I mean, like, it's like what Schopenhauer said about religion, right? I mean, for anything good to come of it, it has to be taken metaphorically or allegorically. But the people that are inside of it have to take it as the God's honest truth, right? I mean, like, and anyone inside of these cultures is taking those cultures as it's seriously inside of those cultures, seriously sees women's role as this.
Yeah,
so
it's like a metaphysical truth about women.
About women, or the way society should be, or about the state of the world. I mean, what on earth besides some kind of Kantian prohibition stops them from, once they grab power, not respecting that? I mean, like, there is nothing within their. Well, this is again a gross oversimplification, but in her little special world that she's made up, what would stop this from happening?
I mean, I guess it would just simply be the fact that, like, we'd have to set policy in place, so that just simply could not, like...
Yeah, we're lucky that that's the way it is now, or close, or we're striving to be that, yeah.
Or they have to be prudent enough to realize that their culture could not enforce those rules on all others.
I mean, imagine like the weird responsibility you're giving to these cultures to say, like, well, I mean, this is what you believe the world is, and this is how you believe women are, and how people should be treated. But yeah, you probably shouldn't take that very seriously.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. I mean, like, that's what they're trying to say to these. I mean, that's what I never understand about liberals when they're talking about like multiculturalism. Like, okay, I get what they're trying to say. Like when Ben Affleck's like, ew, that's gross, that's racist, right? I mean, like. When he talks about stuff like that, he's talking about, like, for example, when you talk about Islam, he's talking about the culture, the practices, the traditions, like the way food, festivals, like, greetings. I mean, like, all this stuff that's in Japan. And hey, if you want to import all that stuff over to America, be my guest, have fun. If you want to have all your meetings and all your drinking parties rigidly structured, and go ahead. Like, I mean, that ain't imposing on anything. Like, if you want to do that, but. I mean, anything that's. I mean, a large part of these cultures that is their vision of. I'm sorry to say, it's their vision of men and women, and where they belong in the world, and what rights children should have, and what they should be, or what they should think they should be, and that's the part that just simply can't stand, right? I mean, that's the part that has to be. And they're not gonna. I mean, like, in what universe are these cultures gonna be like? Yeah, do it. Go ahead, have my children. and teach them like all the possibilities of freedom, right? I mean, like any culture that's already doing that has already been basically tamed. I mean, they've been tamed to the point where, you know, it's basically, for the most part, they're putting on their party hat here, right? Like, okay, today I'm Japanese, but you know, I'm actually, I'm actually, you know, an Enlightenment liberal. Ta-da! Right? It was me the whole time. I was the Enlightenment liberal. Like, I mean, like, is that what you think these people are? Like, they take their hats off, and then they're like, you know, we're all following these Enlightenment principles. Is that? I mean, like, when you actually see people that take their culture seriously, and I don't know. This is how I feel like I'm grossly oversimplifying this, but when I imagine these people taking their culture seriously, and I have seen people do that, that's not their vision of the world. Their vision of the world is
because, like,
different.
I mean, and we talked about this earlier, because, I mean, like, it's this word, this language, too. I mean, when you say taking their culture seriously, what you really mean is, like, taking these specific philosophical, religious, and moral ideas seriously. Which and it's not because it's the culture, it's because it's a serious normative
statement
about the value of women, the value of men, the value of homosexuals, like the value of a family, right? It's not like, you know, something like in our uniqueness or something. I don't know. Maybe some tradition is in there, of course, but
yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, these people are trying to save, like, these, like, for example, the unique way that the Japanese, like, kind of carve out concepts about this or that, or their feelings about wabi-sabi, or,
I mean,
you know,
I
everyday life.
I can even see things like when they mention in one of the essays, like, how language is a kind of a, maybe it is, like, irreducibly social, in the sense that, like, if we were to lose the Japanese language, and I think haiku could not be accessible anymore. I think there's some things we would never be able to get that back. You know, like, there's some ways, some turns of phrase, some ways of putting things. It would just be gone.
We'd still have 15-second YouTube clips. What are you talking about?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's not haiku. Oh,
no, it's not haiku.
Oh my God, my mistake.
Oh my God.
My mistake. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get what those people are trying to preserve, but what I'm afraid of is what they don't understand is there's, like, this, just like with every religion, it comes with this crazy baggage, this, like, insane baggage that comes along with it, right? Are you ready for that? Are you ready that, like, you know, like, it sounds nice to say, like, well, we'll just extract all the best things. They're delicious food. They're wonderful concepts about this and that. And, you know, the way they greet each other and have a different way, 50 words for snow. Isn't that beautiful, right? That's all they are, right? No, it's not, right? That comes with everything else. All of that comes together. And eventually, like, even these people that are all for protecting these minority cultures, eventually they want these cultures to reform too, I know. I mean, in their heart of hearts, that's what they're just doing the same thing. They're just covering it up a little bit.
It's kind of like they're saying, okay, cool. Well, you know, you can wear your fancy scarves and you eat whatever you want. Just think the same way we do.
Yeah, I mean, all right, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just don't. Or even if that's what they don't believe, with some of these people in these essays, I mean, they obviously come from these minority cultures, and they're the vicious replies.
I know some of them are really vicious.
It's just vicious replies to Okin are very enlightening, because I was trying to find an interesting, good reply, but I mean, like, some of these are just like, where's the argument here? It's kind of like, well, you don't understand the complexity of culture. Like, it's too simple, man. You're just making it so simple, man. Like, this guy, what is his name here? Is
oh my God,
Tarek or something? What is clumsily called multiculturalism is a revolt against liberal hegemony and self-righteousness. Whew! So glad we're revolting against liberal hegemony.
It's damn that liberal hegemony over the world.
Damn, I'd rather have what we're replacing it with.
People have been given equal respect for far too long.
Yeah, people have been treated respectfully for too long. This ends now. Really? Is that where we're going here? Like, I mean, maybe their vision of the world is kind of like this sci-fi world where there's all these little bubbles, and each person has their own planet, and they're all living together on Babylon 5 or something. I don't know. I just don't like. I tried to look for a rebuttal that didn't kind of disappoint me to Okin, and I found none. Is there any point that you found interesting as a rebuttal? Or what is a rebuttal to Okin's points? I want to change my mind here. I don't want to be this negative.
Okay, I think it's probably the best rebuttal. Well, this wasn't in any of the essays that I know of, but she's working under the false assumption that women are equal to men.
Well, see, this is again, that needs to be proved yet. So this isn't important. But that's not to say that she's not on dangerous ground. And some of these people pointed out she's on the dangerous ground that she has to work with. I mean, this is the tension that every Anita Sarkeesian has to face when faced up with quote unquote Islamophobia, right? And there's this tension here, right, between modern feminism and protection of, like, for example, Islamic culture, quote unquote, quote unquote, whatever that means, Islamic culture. There's that tension here. That
the tension is pounding it.
But I mean, like, some of the stuff that, like, pounding it. There's a tension that, I mean, like, she has to work with concepts of, I mean, some of these people are accusing her of it's kind of funny, the same things repeat, Marxist analysis in the same way. They're accusing her of we're relying on concepts like false consciousness, right? In other words, that these women that choose these cultures, they're saying that they think she's implying that they've been brainwashed into these cultures, and they didn't really choose to be part of these cultures. That, like, and this is a kind of an endless psychological analysis. You can't possibly do that because there's just no end to this. Like, well, aren't you brainwashed then? Your liberal principles are just another part of your culture, so therefore, haha, I got you. I mean, she is kind of walking on that line, but it's not really if it's simply like educate them in the most possible possibilities, exactly, and then let them choose.
Give them the most possible choices,
and then let them choose.
Right.
Which,
I mean, then
it stops being that then.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I guess. So okay. As much as let me throw back a little resistance here to create a discussion. Let's just see where this goes. Like, even though, oh my God, like, stop stealing my words. I'm on the same page as you. But all right, let me just throw this back at you and see where this goes. Okay. How about this? So okay, yeah, that's fine and all. What you said about, like, maybe making sure these liberal views are kept, but, like, the reality is, like, let's imagine we go to the deep south in the States, and there's this, like, small town community who thinks women are better off making meatloaf and serving their husbands. And these places,
is good.
Meatloaf is good. I love meatloaf. And these places do exist, and they're not illegal. In fact, if you were to say that about an American small town, you'd be like, oh yeah, those guys. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how far I'd go into the let's make it illegal, but all of those kids still go to the same school.
Yeah.
They still go to the same school, right?
Yeah.
So they're still getting a little bit of a presentation of what the outside world is like. No matter where they are, hopefully they're going to the right school. Or if they're not, then something is going wrong. Some of them aren't going to school, actually. They're going to be homeschooled.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, at the very least, allow me the right to put pressure or criticize. I mean, like, those people aren't above criticism or pressure.
I would hope not. Yeah.
I mean, they can't be like, well, this is our Southern culture, y'all. And, they might say that, but we would chortle and snicker, and then we would make fun of them even more. Maybe in part because we're holding them up to a higher standard. Ooh, oh my God. Oh. Oops, did I say that? I mean, no. I mean, because we're much crueler to the people near us. Yes.
Of course.
It's not as if we're holding people up to different standards. Yikes, no. Wouldn't want to imply that.
Impossible. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if I'd make it illegal, but those people are certainly under the same pressure, and those kids still go to school.
Yeah, and they still, the difference between those kids, excuse me, in those called in those in those communities. There you go. That's what. Or and the women in say a highly the patriarchal Islamic community is that it's this woman in the southern household who's been taught her her position in the world. She can look over at other American households and say, "Wait a minute."
Yeah. I mean, I think there's many more routes of escape in the private realm, right? I mean, I guess Okin is diving into dangerous territory because she said like the public realm isn't enough for her. Like it's the private realm also. That's where she said like look, a lot of this control happens in the private realm.
And it does, by the way.
And that's true. I mean, you're right. She's right. This is where a lot of this oppression happens in the private realm, the realm that's not governed by laws per se, really, is it? So, I mean, this is where her essay gets interestingly dangerous. I think this stuff needs to be talked about. But like,
I mean, like again, like I mean, so like if you work in this idea that culture has no normative claims, or whatever is there is a claim of values. Right. If that's what culture is made of, then the situation becomes like Euripides, right? The situation exactly.
You did that before. Euthyphro.
Sorry.
Euthyphro. Why do you keep putting in Euripides when you mean Euthyphro? You did that before too.
Euthyphro.
You don't put your playwrights exactly. It's the Euthyphro dilemma, except with culture.
Yeah, the Euthyphro dilemma comes right through with culture. So whatever is good about culture didn't come from the fact that it was culture, right? Whatever was right about it didn't come from the fact that it was culture. So it still needs to be justified. It's still open for debate, and it's still open to pressure, right? I mean, otherwise you're just claiming it's good because it's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like everybody in the culture has a uniform view about it anyway, either, too, right?
Which is a complete lie, bogus lie.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of interesting. Like, I don't know, just something that I drew out of like some of the essays too is that it seemed like when you dissolve this word culture out of the equation, it seems like what some of these people suggested, and I kind of thought was nice, is that basically what we owe people is justice. That's what we owe immigrants. We owe them justice, and yeah, okay, maybe we don't know. We don't have God's conception of justice, but we do have a conception of justice, and that's what we owe all people in our country. We owe them justice, right? And that's what it's going to boil down to. What is just? And that's where the fight really should be, isn't it? Like, and when it comes down to like, what is a reasonable disagreement?
Yeah. About
what a good way to live is. But it's boiling down to like what kind of laws are just in that they allow for the maximum range of possibilities for living in reasonable disagreements about what is the good. What's Plato? I'm telling you. Plato would be here sitting here laughing, being like, "You guys, you didn't learn anything. You didn't learn anything. First, you need to have a conception of the good and the just." Anyway,
I mean, and it just simply won't do to be like, well, that's just your cultural conception of justice, because that just means that you have a cultural conception of justice, right? Well, then that's just nothing, right? I mean, you can't make that next move like, well, that's just your culture. Well, that's just your culture, right?
Yeah,
like,
right?
You can't do this move, right? Because justice is a normative claim about the world that can be debated.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't boil into this. Well, who are you to say that that's justice? Right? I mean, that doesn't work. That claim doesn't work. That's just cultural relativism 101. It doesn't work, right? Who are you to say this? Well, who are you to say I'm wrong? That should be the first thing everybody says back. Who are you to say I'm wrong? You can't. When you've made that claim, you can no longer say I'm wrong either, can you? Unless it's you don't have absolute knowledge, do you?
I mean, it would be interesting talk about like that there could be multiple lives which kind of peak on a moral good or something, like that Sam Harris kind of talks about these kind of moral peaks or something, that there could be different different ways of life in which either there are different ways of human flourishing and stuff like that. But I think some of these are kind of easily knocked down ways of like suppressing women as probably an easily knocked down conception of the human good, a way of flourishing, right? Maybe the men flourish better like that, but
Well, that's what you're saying, right? Human flourish.
oh, of course, right. I mean, right.
Yeah.
Duh. Right, of course, yeah.
Human equals.
For a lot of these people.
Yeah. And by the way, I gotta. That's a bad joke I've been beating too long. That was the last one, guys.
I don't know. Everything about this frightens me because I feel like kind of like a Darth Vader when I'm like having this kind of discussion, but I can't help it. Like these relativist arguments just simply don't hold water. They don't make sense in any possible conception. I mean, the debate has to happen, and whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Well, you say they don't make sense.
Well, good point. Maybe in your culture they make sense, or in my culture they make sense. In your culture they don't, right? Like, obviously that's a meaningful statement, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because we can't and like objectively analyze the world based on what actually transpires, right? I mean, that's just absolutely impossible.
It's not possible.
Well, let's get the video.
Tested and refining and discussions on various individuals perhaps progress in a mutually beneficial direction. That's
no, ridiculous, right? We should all just huddle in our little corners and have our own conceptions of justice, because that makes sense, right? Like, well, this is just for me. That's not just for you, though. I mean, obviously, that there's nothing crazy going on there, right? I mean, like, nothing at all. Nothing at all. Like when you're like, well, I mean, this is what human flourishing is for, whites.
But first, you're missing out on the most obvious thing. Is that the best way to
progress
towards a greater society is just to continue doing the same thing.
Obviously.
Of course. It's gonna keep
again, right. Just like Wally. You're right. Like, wouldn't our ancestors be proud? We've been doing the same thing for 700 years, right? I mean, wouldn't our ancestors be proud? No, they wouldn't be proud. So culture is nonsense. Culture's argument is nonsense.
Yeah, culture's argument is, and like I guess the thing is like all this discussion, of course, in the background is there are reasonable disagreements about the good.
Yes.
There are reasonable disagreements about the good, but we're on the fringes here. Or maybe we're kind of delineating, saying, well, maybe not allowing certain large groups of people the ability to choose how to live is not so good, right? This is going to be an unreasonable conception of the human good.
Yeah. I mean, like, we can keep wabi-sabi and have gay rights. It's possible, people. Like.
Yeah.
Not yet. It's not possible yet.
Yes. It's got wabier and sabier.
Yeah, it's getting wabi and sabi in here. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. If that eventually happens, and if people are crying tears about how, oh my God, who took my country away from me? Well, good riddance.
I mean, it's not like. It's not like you couldn't reformulate. It almost seems like a lot of these problems are the things that like, I mean, because cultures are diverse, right? They aren't monolithic, and it seems like certain cultures pick up certain issues. So like, what if the status of men and women is an issue in your culture? It doesn't need to be formulated in any particular way per se. I mean, cultures are constantly changing. You could reformulate it in some sort of more docile means. Like, I don't know, like men place a bigger stone in their yards than women. Okay, we're making progress. We're making progress. They still get the same education, everything fine, but guys got a bigger stone in their yards. That's the symbolic metaphysical domination of men over women. Whatever, right? At least that.
You realize the second you start undermining this, though. I mean, like the second you cut the legs out of that thing, that stone, that's gone too.
Yeah.
And that by the next generation, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's dying. It's dying at that point. It really is.
Destroyed it.
I mean, if you insist, I don't know why you would, but I guess reading some of these essays, some people would. If you insist that this stuff has to stay, I mean, does it have to stay like it is now, though? I mean,
No.
can't it be reformulated in less harmful ways?
Yeah. No, I think you got yourself stuck there because the people who enforce these traditions, or want to uphold these traditions, don't see it as harmful.
Yeah, they see it as the way things should be.
Yeah, as even help. The Okin's essay, she gave arguments for warranted, levied by people about why female genital mutilation is good for the women.
Yeah.
And,
God,
God forbid they.
You should have read one of the essays in here then. Oh my God, crazy man in here, like
Wow.
defending it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, well that's an interesting defensive.
Yeah, I know. He was like, what was he? He was like insinuating that there are certain forms of human experience that can only be gotten through this female genital mutilation. I was like,
Well, he's not. That's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not wrong. But that wasn't the problem, my friend.
how dare this Western intellectual impose her, lusty Western passion on their more austere cultures, kind of like.
Oh, well, I'm going to also put I would say to this person, okay, cool. I see 100%. There are certain forms of life you only get by cutting off a woman's clit. They should only experience certain ways of life too. But there's certain ways of life you can only experience by having your arms and legs cut off.
That's very true.
Well, I mean, you have to throw away your Western conception that only intact genitalia can give pleasure. Please. Okay. Throw away your conceptions, my friend. It's just because we've mutilated some genitalia doesn't mean they can't get pleasure. The biggest sexual organ is the brain. So no biggie. No biggie, right? I mean, nothing crazy is going on here, right? No. Shh. Okay. I was like, wow, thanks, Gilman, Sander L. Gilman. I'll name names. Historian.
Defending. He did take a dangerous road. I gave him props for taking that dangerous road of defending female genital mutilation. Doesn't often happen.
Which he also linked up with anti-Semitism. The first thing he did was like, well, these people that are protesting genital mutilation, these are obviously anti-Semites. There's a long tradition of discriminating against Jews about male circumcision. So let's just link these two together. Alrighty, but does that actually talk about the moral challenge to, for example, male circumcision, which is they didn't make the choice, right? Nobody's saying don't have male circumcision. The problem with it is you didn't ask, right? So he never touches that on here. All he's doing is making up these crazy arguments as well. I mean, who says that only intact genitalia can give pleasure? Really? I mean, come on. Use your brain, man. Become like otaku. Get your inner otaku out here, right? I mean, just fantasize. I mean, this is his serious defense. That's what he's saying in here. I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay.
Because he knows if they asked that nobody would say yes.
Yeah, that's why you don't ask.
That's why you don't ask.
Well, if we went around asking people, then the tradition would die.
Yeah. Well, maybe some people like taking drugs in the mountains might do it. You know what I mean? Oh, hey man, cut yours off. You cut mine off. Oh man, the spiritual levels will achieve. That's our culture now.
I mean, I get it. I mean, these people are angry about something, though. They're angry that they feel their culture is being dismissed as superstition.
Yeah.
I don't really think so, though. I mean, I don't feel like I wouldn't dismiss Japanese culture as a superstition. A Japanese culture or Chinese it's a way of looking at the world. right? It's a philosophical premise about the world and the way it's lived, and it is okay, a legitimate stance on the world, like the Israeli stance or the Arab stance, right? I mean, that's not what we're talking about, though. We're not saying that the Japanese stance on the world is an illegitimate stance on the world. The problem is that you're not giving anyone the choice. I mean, like, when you restrict people down to, for example, the genital mutilation choices, something has gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, as if there's like one Japanese stance too, right? I mean,
right.
It's like there's multiple.
Right. Yeah, right. As if there is such a thing as the Chinese stance or the Japanese stance or the Israeli, right? As if even if that did exist, even if you could just broadly generalize the culture, the dominant culture in Japan, and say that's the Japanese stance, even if you could do that, it still doesn't work. It still doesn't work. Because that's not the issue at hand either. Even if it wasn't nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a poisoned, riddled concept. I'm sorry, like I can't believe that and not only did I not change my view, I almost became more disgusted with some of these people. Oh my God. I am just getting worse and worse every year that passes when it comes to this. I can't get on board with this. I'm just... I need someone to change my mind. I really do.
All right. So, but I mean, like, okay, I do want to preface this a little bit by saying, like, the thing here is not multiculturalism is bad.
No.
It's not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying. It's what are the limits of within a liberal society, right? I mean, I think it is beneficial to have these
diversity,
diverse as a diverse a possible range of opinions, a diverse as possible amount of ways of living, rituals, ceremonies, beliefs, right? But we're working at the limits, at the edges here, not saying that diversity is wrong or bad, and I would hate for anybody to even think we're even close to saying that, but this is the internet.
Yeah, that is one of the strengths of the American system, is our diversity, right? Probably, I mean, that's what they say. So, I believe it.
Yeah, we're saying that in our, ideal society, in our capitalist, you can choose to eat your breakfast with chopsticks or a fork. No problem. You might have issues if you're trying to cut off parts of your daughter's body.
Well, having your breakfast.
Well, having your breakfast.
That's one we won't stand for. No breakfast mutilations.
I don't know. Maybe what these people that are on the other side are simply like, they think that maybe these other side is blowing out of proportion the amount of pressure that's put on women and other minorities in other cultures. Right? I don't know. I think that they don't. I think that they don't understand how much pressure is put on, for example, women and gays and other people to be put into their place in other cultures, whereas they seem to think that that's just a minor portion of it.
I mean, like, people do, like, if you ask people, I mean, like, these people they asked about you had the female genital mutilation, they said, oh yeah, it was great. These older women of the tribe who actually help perform these things. I mean, okay, yeah, these people exist. They kind of come around, I guess. They come around to carrying out the traditions of their people, and they feel these traditions have structured their lives, and they have structured their lives to a certain extent. But
that's fine if they want to. That's fine.
Yeah, right? I mean...
That again, that's not the issue, right?
Exactly.
I mean, like, if you want to cut off whatever you want to cut off at age 20 or 18, go ahead and cut it off. I don't care. Cut out your eyes for all I care. I mean, like, whatever. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like... this is where it starts to get dangerous, because, like, I don't want to start playing with views of false consciousness, but, I mean, don't you start to sound like Samuel L. Jackson from Django, right? Like... the internalized slave, the slave that's internalized as slavery, right? I mean, to avoid that charge, what you have to do is give people a free choice. Right?
Yeah. I know, like, I just... The amount of justification for what has happened to you and how that plays a role in your psychology is something you really can't avoid, right? People justify the bad things that happened to them, the things they weren't happy with later, by saying it was all for the best. Even though, it could have been better.
Mm.
But people want to say it was all for the best. They really do.
Who knows? Maybe it was, but you didn't choose it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And when you something that has happened to you, whether not by choice, but you're told by your entire society for years, is that this was a good thing. And it'd be pretty easy to internalize that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that defenders are going to say. Well, this is your liberal arrogance, right? I mean, this is you coming from the outside and telling us how to live our lives. Yeah, and they hate that, and people hate that, and they'll accuse you of being a moral imperialist and totalitarian and even proto-fascist for saying things like that. But
oh, come on!
Only proto. You can't go full.
Nobody goes full fascist.
They're gonna reserve that for the real full fascists.
Yeah. Proto-fascist is enough to throw some dirt on you.
It's a scary. I'll scare you a little bit there.
Proto-fascist.
I don't know. This topic always concerns me, but oh well. When it comes to other aspects of culture, though, hey, import away. Like thumbs up. Whatever concepts you have or stances or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
We are minorities in this culture. I mean,
yes, we are.
Yep.
Yes, we are. And I think just because we are, it's so much easier to see what a load of BS the situation is the other way around. That's American culture, my friends. That's what we do in America.
Yeah. Whenever I'm walking with my hamburger, that's what I say to the person next to me. Yeah. When I'm eating it on the train.
I mean, I do that as a joke sometimes. I say,
Yeah.
I've never seriously meant it. Yeah. I can't pretend to speak for all Americans, nor could I, or do I want to.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't want to have this conversation endlessly circle, but I mean, but so much stuff is put in, like, that's why culture is a descriptive term and not a normative term, because, like, when people say things about American culture, sometimes they mean things about, like this, using hand gestures. Oh, that's American bunka, right? That's American culture. Maybe speaking with a louder voice. Things
that's
like
a descriptive claim.
It's a descriptive claim about what large amounts of people are doing. It's not like using gestures has some kind of normative force for me per se. It's just a way I express myself.
It's the way we live, right?
I need laws to prevent people from infringing on my right to those gestures.
Don't worry. People just stare at you weird for long enough and you'll stop doing it. You don't need no laws to fix that. What are you doing? Ooh, Jesus. Yeah. You got to be careful the way you describe culture. And other than that, that's the most exciting part of this. The rest is sometimes justice changes according to the circumstances. All right, got that. All right.
Yeah. That was the one about historic injustice, right?
Other than that, I mean, I guess, unfortunately, I've said my piece.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I mean, there was some really interesting. This idea of Heraclitean pluralism is really interesting. It's really neat. I enjoyed it very much. Definitely take a look at that if you ever see that. I think it's a really cool idea. I like the essay. I like that bit of the essay very much. I don't think we need to sit here and explain the ins and outs of Heraclitean pluralism. I think it's the guy in the essay.
It's just another dissection of culture, though.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Which one? This one. Immigration and the Significance of Culture by Samuel Scheffler. He describes Heraclitean pluralism and how cultures are constantly in flux, and there's no way one can preserve a culture the way it has been,
I mean, you can see that even in Japan. A lot of the traditions that they claim are old here are from literally just the last 50 years. Yeah. I mean, Japanese culture is in constant flux, even in a place that systematically tries to preserve their culture in a stasis, right? Even in this situation, right? I mean, they're constantly changing.
Yeah, actually, ironically enough, some of their most rapid growth of culture happened when they were not letting other people in.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you just can't keep it the same, and nor actually do I think anyone really wants to.
Yeah.
But when they say they want to do it, it's this kind of weird defensive stance that they put up, right? It's always a defensive stance.
It's I don't want to have to justify my actions.
Yeah, and it's that. It's putting yourself up, putting a wall up, using culture as a justification for X, as a big excuse to do X, even though it's a completely meaningless claim. So again, a great dissection of culture. And how much trouble you get into when you use that term.
All right. So, I don't. Do you want to keep going, or I think we're pretty good. I don't know.
I'm pretty good. I don't know what else to say other than I think I've said my feelings.
Yeah. That's what we'll say. Please subscribe.
Please subscribe. Please subscribe.
Give us comments.
If in your culture subscriptions are good, please subscribe.
Yeah.
If not, we will enforce our subscriptionist values upon you.
Yeah.
It's a universal human rights. First is to be subscribed to on YouTube.
Yes. So yeah, do that, and that's about all. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah. All right. I think let's wrap this one up, and I guess we'll be back for more stuff next time.
All right. Later.